of the written exam practice if you're having trouble. If you tried it, watch and check that you're right. If not, watch me do one, copy it, and then pause and do the others on your own. So in part 3, we're looking at ionic compounds. And remember how I know that? The first element is in group 1, 2, or 13 minus boron. So since the first element's in group 1 or 2 for all these, I know it's ionic, which ties into part 2 that we just did. So you don't have to do it this way, but I strongly recommend it. Cheat with the table and figure out what ion you form by just looking at the top of the periodic table. Group 1 means it's going to form a +1 for lithium. Chlorine is in group 17, so it's going to form a -1. Everything in that group does. Now we're ready to make our Lewis dot diagram. Remember, if you're a +1, you have no dots. So Li +1. Done with that one. It's connected to Cl. I'm going to put that in a bracket. Outside the bracket, I'm going to put the charge that everything in group 17 has. And just like in part 2, if it's negative, it gained electrons for one reason, to get 8 valence. So I'm going to draw 8 around there. In all of these, the first element is going to have no dots and a charge of plus something, +1, 2, or 3. The second element here is going to have a charge of -1, 2, or 3, and always will have 8 dots around it. If you can remember that, it's going to give you a fighting chance even if you forget some of the details. All right, let's look at this one here, calcium sulfide. It says calcium is in group 2, means it has a +2. Sulfur is group 16, use your periodic table to cheat, it has a -2 charge. We said a second ago the first element, Ca in this case, you just write it in the charge. The second element, you put it in a bracket with the charge outside and give it 8 dots because it lost 2 electrons to go from 6 to 8, so you're good. All right, so a little bit of a tricky one because we have a little number. We'll show you how that works, but the first step is the same. Group 2, +2. Group 17, we said is always -1. The thing now I'm going to have to do is say magnesium is still the first element, so it gets that positive charge and no dots. Now is where that little 2 comes into play. It means I have 2 Fs, 2 fluorines, and they're both the same, so I'm going to draw one here with -1. I'm going to draw another one with -1, and we said if it's in the second element, or third in this case, if it's in parentheses, it's always going to get 8 dots around it. So once I put a few more dots, you'll see what it should look like. Hopefully now you're good with step 3, making ionic compound Lewis dot structures.